through the lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Tables turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
What is going on, people? What's going on? What's going on? It's G. We're back in the building. You guys already know what time it is. It is the transfer season. Well, this transfer season is soon going to be upon us, should I say? You know, the crazy rumors, all of that kind of good stuff. You know, Liverpool, as we already know, going to be linked with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. So it's just really taking a look at some of the players that we might potentially be linked with. So if you guys have watched, you know, my previous scout watches, you'll see obviously we spoken about Jurrien Timber of Ajax, who was a centre back / right back. Looked at Okan Kochu of Feyenoord, central / attacking midfielder. And today we're going to take a look at Micky Van De Ven. Now, he's kind of a new one. Now, didn't really know too much about him, to be honest with you. So gone away, done a little bit of research on him, seen what kind of a player who he is. You know, quite a few people have spoken to me about him recently anyway, just to kind of put him on my radar, so to speak, for Liverpool. You know, a couple of people saying, you know, he's a decent player and all of that kind of good stuff. You know, had a look, thought, yeah, he looks okay. I think it's more, one thing is, it's probably more the fact that the potential new sporting director, Georg Schmack, obviously Wolfsburg sporting, or former Wolfsburg sporting director, looking like he'll obviously come to the club on a consultancy basis. Apparently it's a short-term deal. With that being said, he's apparently going to be helping us, you know, looking and helping us really with the German market, so to speak. So that might be an area that maybe Liverpool wanted to maybe dive into, or maybe they think we should dive into. I don't really know the ins and outs on that, but one of the players that has potentially been touted for Liverpool is Micky Van De Ven. Centre back, can play left back as well. Obviously in a back three, he can also obviously play left centre back, left footed, very, very, very quick. There's obviously a video that had been going around recently, if I get it up for you guys now. You know, that's quick. And I think that's obviously one of his main strengths if we're looking at the centre back. And it's a very good strength to kind of have, to be honest with you, having that acceleration pace, you know, to be able to get yourself back, you know, into position and defend. So if we're taking a look at him, as I said, you know, can play centre back, can play obviously left back. These are the positions let's take that banner for you guys. He's played 30 times in the centre back position, but again, he's played 5 times at left back. And obviously, we're looking at the left-sided centre back role, obviously, because of Andrew Robertson. Now, we all know when it does come to Andrew Robertson, I guess we can probably all say, we can all agree, we're not really comfortable with him, obviously, in that position. Still a good player. He has his qualities. But in this kind of formation with, you know, Jurgen Klopp potentially wanting to keep the 3 at the back, we're going to need it. You know, I've said it so many times, you know, since we moved to this formation, the fact that we even moved to it, because originally when I thought about it, I thought, you know, maybe Robbo could play it, but not when I thought Robbo could play it, not the way that he's playing it. Do you get what I mean? Like I wouldn't have Robbo doing the role that Jurgen Klopp is asking him to do, because to me, it just doesn't really make any sense. And I think Klopp's trying to put his own spin on it, which is fine. But I always think to myself, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, just play the system the way the system should just be played, you know, which is fairly simple, to be honest with you. You know, you don't need a left-sided centre-back who's basically still playing left-back, but is the left-sided centre-back, meaning we're always going to have gaps, we're always going to have holes down that side, you know, and then but then your right centre back doesn't ever move forward. So it's like you've only really got two at the back. So it's really really confusing, when we look at it. And this is Van de Ven. This season played 35 times, got himself a goal and 2 assists. Not going to really speak on his actual goal scoring prowess, to be honest with you, because again, I'm not really too fussed when it comes to having the 3 at the back. This is probably the one time where I'm like, I don't care about your goals and I don't care about your assists. Did you get what I mean? Like, that's not what I'm looking for when I'm thinking of a player in those kind of positions, in those centre back roles, whether it be centre or wide. Now, in regards to potentially joining Liverpool, obviously reports had come out recently saying Liverpool are one of the clubs tracking the Wolfsburg defender. That was obviously put out by Miss I Douglas. That was posted out on Twitter on Anfield Edition. So again, whether that's just because we've potentially got Shamak coming in to the club, does that then just mean because he's coming in, he knows the player, he knows what the player's about? I'm more just looking at, not to say that he's a poor player or anything like that. Again, I think he does look a little bit decent. I'm not upset that we're linked with him. And I think we as a fan base are going to have to kind of get used to the fact that, we're not going to be linked with maybe the profile of players that we potentially might want to be. And we're going to have to be a lot smarter with some of the deals that we do, in terms of certain positions, especially if we're trying to strengthen other positions and we feel that other positions might be of bigger concern, so to speak. So again, I don't know what his fee might potentially be. It could be a low cost fee. Again, Shamak, if and when he comes in, he'll know all of that stuff already. It's probably, if we are interested, he's probably speaking, with the player, just to kind of get feelers out, try to understand. Again, if he's coming in, he's probably speaking to Jurgen Klopp to then say, look, this player, I think this is the guy that you guys should really sign. He could work well in this position, that position. The sheer fact that he can play centre back and left back as well, really good. But the fact that he's played mostly centre back, is this someone who could be the heir, to Virgil van Dijk? It's the heir to Virgil van Dijk is such a tricky one. It is so tricky because you're talking about one of the best defenders of this generation. So it's one of those touchy subjects, so to speak. You don't really want to say too much in terms of putting pressure upon another player and saying, he's going to be the new Van Dijk, so to speak. I don't like using that term, the new something. At the end of the day, each player is their own player. But when you're looking at some of the qualities that he does possess, if we just take a quick look at the metrics here, you can see, progressive carries, successful take-ons, pass completion, progressive passes. He's pretty decent when we rank him up against other centre backs around the world. I mean, I think he's only 22, years of age. So we're not talking about a player who's super young, but again, he's still coming into his own. I think when he joined Wolfsburg initially, wasn't really in favour. Only played like a handful of games, but this season he's really come on leaps and bounds, and he's been one of the better performers, in the Bundesliga. Now, if we take a quick look here at his kind of strengths and weaknesses, big up Football Talented Scout, very, very good page, website. If you guys want to check out their stuff, they're really, really good in terms of looking at young talent and stuff like that. But if we check them out here, you can see this is like one of his strengths, which is obviously his aerial heading ability. Van de Ven is not only a towering centre half, but also a dominant aerial presence with good timing, positioning, and technique in his heading. He's able to compete with strong opposition forwards and use the full extent of his physical presence in aerial duels. So looking at that, I'm thinking, okay, cool. So aerially, of course, I know that Klopp seems to like, we seem to be signing quite a lot of, tall players recently, which something I've noticed. Is that something that we're potentially going to need? Is that something that he's trying to potentially gain an advantage in, the opposition box, for set pieces and things like that? But then if you've still got someone who's relatively mobile, is that something potentially to look at? Another strength of his is his ball carrying. In possession, Micky Van De Ven does not seek 1v1 duels, but when he has space to attack, he is willing and capable of carrying possession forward with tremendous speed. The combination of his strong physical frame, long strides, and elite pace make Van de Ven an incredibly hard player to dispossess when he gets into full stride and has open space to exploit. So again, having that, and this is what I go back to all the time, all the damn time, is when we're speaking about this new role, the left centre back and the right centre back. It's not to say, because obviously I'm not saying you sell what you mean. You can sell Robbo if you want to, but then you're going to have to get someone else in to fill that to fill a position there. You know, backup, should I say, a backup option. But when I'm thinking about, you know, Robbo in that position, yes, he might be good as a wing back, a marauding left back, full back, whatever you want to call him. Yes, he can do that. Ask him to start being comfortable on the ball. Robbo's not. That's not really Robbo's game. Robbo's not that type of player. He didn't have to be, to be honest with you, because we weren't playing that way. But in this new role, and again, goes back to what I was saying about Jurgen Klopp and being more flexible, having that fluidity and all the buzzwords that I keep mentioning over and over again. And you're going to keep hearing it throughout this summer. Being fluid with the style of play, having players who are fluid with this style of play, not necessarily players that you're looking at and have got this bloody PMP all bloody day. If they've got that, great, but I need them to be technically savvy, especially in this kind of formation, because that is the only way it works. It's not going to work with stiff guys. So Konate, Robbo, stiff players. It won't work long term, in my opinion, with them in there, you know, kind of thing. Not because they are bad. It's because they have their strengths, but in this kind of formation, in this style, in this tactic, we're more highlighting their weaknesses. And that's going to be an issue moving forward. So if you've got someone like that who can kind of do both, it might be a little bit, you know, of a no-brainer potentially. Taking a look, obviously, at his weaknesses here. Weaknesses, one of the things is progressive passing. Van de Ven is not a notable element in the Wolfsburg ball progression via passing. The Dutch centre-back plays a very simple, low-risk game, often looking for a short horizontal pass to his centre-back partner or a simple layoff to Wolfsburg's deepest midfielder. Not really a flaw, but potentially something that is dictated by the manager Kovac's system. It's something to watch closely and to take into account when charting his future potential. Like I said, he's not going to be adventurous, in my opinion, but I don't think we need that. I don't think Klopp should be looking at someone who can, you know, if they were good at everything and could, you know, be adventurous but still be defensively savvy and all these kind of different things, then great. But I just feel like in this kind of style, you don't need them to necessarily do that. You just need them to be able to, for me, as long as they're solid defensively but comfortable on the ball, meaning they then, as you know, as I said, being able to at least bring the ball forward, a bit like a Matic, so to speak. If Matic wasn't so injury prone, I probably wouldn't mind him, you know, and obviously his age, I probably wouldn't mind him on that right centre back role, to be honest with you, because I feel like he's solid enough, but also super comfortable on the ball. So he probably would fit that. He reminds me a little bit of like an Akanji, those type of, you know, just those kind of players. Again, taking a look here, high-risk tackling is another weakness of his. Outstretched tackling and high-risk duels are something the young defender has in his arsenal, but is nevertheless worrisome the number of times he opts to go to ground with an outstretched tackle and how early he commits himself to these duels. Again, looking at that, I'm thinking, okay, so that's going to be a negative purely because we don't need a defender with the way that we play already. We've already got that in a Konate, you know, someone who, for me, just a little bit too aggressive. But if this guy's constantly going down against smarter forwards, you know, they'll use that to their advantage at the end of the day. And you don't really want to put yourself in these kind of positions whereby you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, kind of thing. You know, he's easy to necessarily play against when you're up against him because you can kind of bamboozle him fairly easy. You know, I don't want that to be, you know, be too much of an issue. But again, I'm looking at the potential fee that it might take to get someone like a Van de Ven. Looking at the fact that we do need someone in that area, are we then looking at getting rid of? Let me say it categorically here. I don't see it happening. But if you did get rid of a Robbo and a Simicast, let's say you got rid of both of them and you got an Ignacio and this guy, now you're looking a bit different. Now you've got players who are probably comfortable in that, and you've got adequate enough cover. And again, we need to start thinking. I'm not advocating. I need people to understand this. I'm not advocating to sell Robbo. I'm just trying to think of different ways that we could potentially improve. But again, that's not going to happen all in one window. I'm realistic enough to know that. So, you know, it's just one of those kind of things. But if we look at, you know, his stats up against Robbo, you can see here, ground duels success. clearances this season, interceptions, blocks. You know, he's really doing well in that kind of department. You know, duels contested, tackles made. You know, his take on success, which I found was like, wow. I would have thought that Robbo would have a better take on success, to be honest with you. But again, you know, he's showing that he can do that side, you know, of the game. Far less possession is lost. Again, that one I didn't mind. Well, no, I don't mind. Of course, I don't want you to be losing possession too much. But that one, I said, okay, fair enough. It probably would make sense that Robbo does, just because of the way that Liverpool play. He's probably more likely to lose possession more so than other players. Just like him and Trent, I expect them to kind of lose possession quite a bit. But at the same time, at the end of the day, if you're playing in this formation and this new style, I don't really want that to be a thing. You know, I don't need it to be a thing. You know, kind of, I don't want that to be something moving forward. So maybe that's just an area potentially, you know, to look at. And then again, you know, passing accuracy, you know, Van De Ven just about comes out, you know, on top. So again, a player that Liverpool are linked with, so to speak. I don't know at the time of doing this video. I don't know if these are, would I say, concrete links, you know, to Van De Ven. Is this maybe a player that, you know, guys, let me know in the comments. Is this a player that you think that we should go for? Are there better alternatives out there? You know, it's just one of those kind of things. I just think we need to. It's going to be a long summer. I can tell you that for free. It's going to be a summer where we're going to be looking at it and thinking to ourselves, wow, bloody hell, you know, we're trying to get this guy, we're trying to get that guy, and blah, 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 and this, that, and the third. And, you know, we don't know at this current moment in time the type of profile of players that we're even trying to look for at the moment. The window's not even opened yet. Maybe it's a case of having to judge them, you know, at a later date, potentially. It might be one of those ones, because at the moment, me as a fan of Liverpool, I haven't got an absolute Scooby as to what the hell they're trying to do. Like, I don't really know, because usually I'll look at, for example, a Chelsea, and I'll say, yeah, well, they need a striker, they need a midfielder. Like it seems easier. Over here, I'm like, I know what we need, i.e., I know we need a midfielder, I know we need a defender, but I don't know what type of profile of that kind of player that we do need, if that makes sense. Are you looking for a ball-playing defender? Is he just looking for a defender, like in a general sense? Like, I have no idea. And some of the players that we're then getting linked with, they're all so different. They're not the same type. Like, if they were all the same kind of player, you would probably understand a little bit better and say, we're looking for that type of guy who can do this, that, and the third. But some of these midfielders and some of these defenders that we're getting linked with, they're so different from each other. It is a little bit confusing. But you know, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. But there it is, Micky Van De Ven, Scout Watch. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of him? Do you think he's a player that we should potentially go for? Let me know what you guys are obviously thinking in the comments. I'll leave it with this before we head out. I'm G. Boom.